Well, up next, it's time for Truth or Fake with Charlotte Hughes. You are focusing tonight on the war in Ukraine, specifically Operation Spider's Web, Sunday's huge assault on Russian airfields. Some internet users claiming that Kyiv was able to carry out those strikes because of a requirement in a nuclear treaty between Russia and the US. Tell us more.
Exactly, Sharon. Ever since those attacks on Sunday, users online are coming up with various different theories as to how Ukraine managed to carry them out. As you say, some are alleging that Kyiv took advantage of a requirement laid out in the New START nuclear deal between Russia and the US. Now, to give our viewers some context about this deal, START stands for Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. The pact caps the number of strategic nuclear warheads that the US and Russia can deploy. Under the agreement, each side can also carry out inspections to ensure the other has not violated the treaty's limits. And the deal was signed in 2010 before coming into effect in 2011, and it is due to expire in 2026. Now, some internet users, such as pro-Russian influencer Bertrand Scholler, are alleging that the treaty forced Russia to keep its bombers out in the open, therefore making them vulnerable to Ukrainian attacks. His post claims that under the deal, the aircraft in question need to be based at locations visible to means of verification, such as satellite imagery. Now, he is not the only person voicing this claim. The pro-Russian journalist Che Bose also took to X to voice this view. Similarly, another person here alleging that the Russian bombers were unprotected because of the New START requirements. This post racked up more than 1 million views, so it is definitely a theory that has gained traction online, Sharon.
And what have you been able to verify then about those claims? What can you tell us about the alleged requirement in that treaty?
So these claims are in fact false. This requirement that those people are alleging there is not actually in the treaty. But before I get into the details of all of that, I think it's first important to point out that Russia actually suspended its participation in the pact back in 2023, as this Reuters article here recounts. Now, that is one important detail omitted by those internet users. Now, back to this alleged demand in the treaty that they mentioned about Russia having to keep those bombers in question back out in the open. This is not a blanket requirement laid out in the pact. The treaty, I have part of it here, actually does allow operational bombers to be protected undercover and therefore be out of the reach of satellite surveillance. Operational here being a key word because under the agreement, control measures do differ according to a number of factors. The pact does ban concealment measures during testing, as we can see here. It also requires bombers to be visible to satellites if they're going to be disposed of, or in other words, decommissioned. This is something that Pavel Podvig, who works for the UN Institute for Disarmament Research, has picked up on. He thinks that is where this confusion may have arisen. So Podvig notes that the US uses hangars to protect its B-2 bombers, as we can see in this photo. Etienne Marcus, meanwhile, who is a strategic systems analyst, makes some interesting points of analysis. He believes that if Russia didn't shelter these bombers, it was due to financial reasons, because he says that it would be simply too expensive for Russia to shelter and protect its entire fleet. Finally, Marcus has his own suspicions about why talk of the New START deal may have emerged. So speaking to France 24, he said, "It has been 3 years since the war in Ukraine began, and I quote, Russia has done nothing to secure its bases." To justify this inaction, he continues, the Russians are simply trying to shift the blame onto others, onto the treaty and the Americans. So an interesting theory from Etienne Marcus there as to why these false claims emerged. Sharon.
Charlotte, thanks so much for all of that. Charlotte Hughes there with tonight's Truth or Fake. Do stay with us. We'll be right back with more world news.